We had been married for 3 years, yet Porter and I still had no children. So, under the pressure from his parents, Porter, working like a miner every day, took me to the hospital. The doctor glanced at Porter, then at the report. Sperm quality is normal. Porter, and my wife. The doctor hesitated, muttering for a while, before finally giving in and pulling back the figurative veil. Your wife's sperm quality is actually exceptional. Me, oh no. So much for pretending to marry my brother's husband as a cover story. It had been discovered anyway. 1. What? Porter was utterly shocked when he heard the news. His big, puppy-like eyes went wide. I know this might be hard to accept, but... The doctor sitting across from us looked a little uneasy. Sliding the report flat on the table in front of us, the report confirms it. Porter practically pressed the paper against his face, checking every single record carefully. Motility, survival rate, count, every single measure, always lower when I was beneath him, was higher in me. With a resigned sigh, Porter put the report down, lifted his eyes to the hospital ceiling, and let out a long breath. The doctor scratched his head, looking slightly troubled. AA relationships are quite common nowadays. If you're still determined to have a child. He patted Porter on the shoulder, glanced at his rear, and muttered an ironically appropriate line for the situation, take care. 2. Porter and I walked out of the hospital side by side, though I moved a little faster. When we reached the steps, Porter stopped and stared at the blue sky outside for a long time. He clearly hadn't come to terms with the reality yet. Porter, I called his name, trying to reach out and steady him, but before my hand could touch him, he pushed it away forcefully. Don't touch me, he said it cautiously, almost defensive. What exactly are you? I was a few steps below him, the height difference just enough to meet his gaze eye to eye. I slipped my hands into my pockets and watched him in silence for a long moment, thinking, even the doctor's warning was this obvious. Doesn't he get it? I'm an baby. 3. Porter's family was straightforward, a strong alpha father and a beautiful omega mother. So, by 16, Porter had naturally differentiated into an alpha. At that time, newly differentiated Porter couldn't fully control his pheromones yet. Neither alphas nor omegas could play with him. He could only stick to someone like me, still undifferentiated and temporarily considered genderless. Back then, Porter would always whisper in my ear, Robby, if you were an omega, I'd marry you. What if I'm not? I asked. Then it won't work. He laughed, stepping back a little. You know I can only marry an omega. And yes, in my memory, Porter really had only ever chased after beautiful omegas. At the time, I genuinely wished I could differentiate into an omega. Not for anything else, just because I liked Porter. But even my younger brother, 2 years my junior, had differentiated into a citrus-scented omega. My glands hadn't stirred at all. Robby, don't you feel anything yet? My mom asked. I shook my head in frustration. No, how strange. Should we take him to the hospital? The doctor had said I had the potential to become an Enigma. My parents were overjoyed, because Enigma was, temporarily, the most dominant gender among all the sexes. But amidst their cheers and laughter, I lowered my head, thinking, Porter would never like an Enigma. 4. The year after I graduated, Porter was stressed out by his parents' constant nagging about marriage. Porter was going to take over the family business, and his parents wanted him to choose an omega of similar status to support each other and marry as soon as possible. Where on earth is a perfect omega suddenly going to appear for me? Porter complained. And work together too. I haven't even figured out my own path yet. Do I have to carry someone else along too? Is it that urgent? I asked. Porter's frown deepened. My mom said that if I don't find someone in 2 weeks, she'll just pick one from the pheromone matching database. Ah, you should just be an omega, Porter muttered again. But this time, it wasn't a joke, it carried a hint of seriousness. Do you think if you'd smelled me more, there'd have been a chance to change? Porter suddenly asked. Inexplicably. Smell me, he added, wrapping his arm around my neck. At that moment, Porter and I were suddenly very close. Close enough that my eyelashes nearly brushed against the tiny mole on the tip of his nose. Smells good? He asked. I nodded, almost bewitched. I leaned closer to his gland, inhaling, and somehow, I really did smell something. Sweet, like a peach about to burst in spring. Thanks to Porter. That night, I differentiated into an Enigma. Enigma's differentiation cycle was slow, while alphas and omegas needed only 3 days. Enigmas required a full 2 weeks to stabilize. The next time I saw Porter, it was at my house. He sat on my living room sofa, frowning, and when he saw how weak I was, he moved to block my way. His voice carried a hint of grievance. Why didn't you come to see me for so long? I looked at him, so docile and obedient, and bit my tongue, forcing down my desires. I forced myself to speak calmly. I've differentiated. Porter seemed even more excited than I was. Into what? I hesitated, afraid he'd despise me if I told him. But then, unexpectedly, everything happened so suddenly. Quinn's medical report was laid on the table, glaringly obvious. He looked 7 or 8 parts like me. Porter didn't even check the name. He saw the similar face, and the gender field boldly stated, Omega. Robby, come home with me. He grabbed my hand excitedly. Marry me. Marriage wasn't a game, but when he and I went to the civil affairs office, I still agreed, because I thought, at least this way, the second half of my life would still intersect with Porter. At least one half of me would carry his name, something I had never dared to hope for before. 5. Porter didn't speak to me the whole way home. His head was turned to the window, leaving me with a clean yet awkward view of the back of his head. Once we arrived, Porter tossed his bag and shoes onto me. He was angry. When an alpha is angry, their pheromones overflow, but the scent of anger is usually strong, a dominating, suppressive kind of smell. But what came from Porter wasn't like that. Instead, it was sweet, like freely growing vines, tickling and tempting. What day is it? I thought. The 26th. Porter's receptive period was approaching. Porter, control your pheromones, I reminded him, covering my nose. Control what? You're an alpha too, aren't you? Stop pretending. The moment he spoke, the scent intensified. Alpha and alpha only find each other's pheromones unpleasant. Got it? He glanced at me, probably mockingly, but to me, it felt like a kitten scratching its claws. You really go all out every time, shivering like it's real, he said possessively, then turned around. Porter had a habit of changing clothes at home. Like now, completely unguarded, he shed his dusty clothes, revealing his nape to me. To me, it felt provocative. What's that smell? He sniffed the air in the room. Why is it so sweet? The temperature in the room started rising. My pheromones, affected by his, began exploding uncontrollably in the confined space. Porter seemed to notice, turning to look at me. Our eyes met, and he instinctively stepped back. But the room was tiny, and the door had been locked from the inside when I came in. Where could he escape? He was trapped between me and the wall. Instinctively, I moved closer. I buried my face in his neck, savoring that fragile gland, whining a little. I could have differentiated into an Omega, but because of you, I became an Enigma. I gently bit his gland with my canine. Porter, completely restrained by me, trembled in my arms. I smiled triumphantly, pressed close to his ear, and whispered each word into his soul. So, you're responsible for me, responsible for not letting me become your Omega. 6. Unlike Porter, both of my parents were Omegas. My brother and I were statistically much more likely to differentiate into Omegas, yet I didn't. The doctor explained that during my differentiation period, I had inhaled a lot of unstable alpha pheromones, causing a mutation. My parents thought it was just school stress, but only I knew the truth. The pheromones, Porter's, and those unstable feelings probably came from my growing possessiveness toward him. 7. I was probably the one who chased Porter the longest, but I was also the one who broke up with him the fastest. Less than a week into our relationship, Porter suddenly said, Robby, maybe we should just be friends. I looked up, confused. Porter couldn't bring himself to meet my eyes. Being friends just feels more natural. Under the moonlight, he let go of my hand. This way, we'll both be more comfortable. At first, I thought I was putting too much pressure on Porter, until one time I went to the KTV to pick up my brother and ran into Porter with a bunch of his friends, chatting, so careless that the private room door wasn't even closed. The guy sitting across from Porter asked, Porter, didn't you really like Robby? You showed off his face to us all the time, so why break up with him? Yeah, right? Who chased him like a simp every day, finally got the unreachable guy, and then just let him go. Porter waved his hand, his expression suddenly darkening. He's beautiful, I like him, but we're not compatible. He glanced at the ceiling, sighing. He's always so calm. Talking to him feels like being scrutinized, and he hadn't differentiated yet, not controlled by pheromones. We wouldn't have worked. I still like Omegas. If only he were an Omega. His friend snorted. Come on, you're not afraid of your parents, you're just scared Robby would kick your ass. But honestly, which alpha doesn't like the feeling of fully controlling their Omega? Suddenly, someone caught onto the point. Hey, but Robby comes from a powerful family. Aren't you afraid he'll get back at you? Porter scoffed. Get back at me? His parents are both Omegas. He might differentiate into an Omega too. How would he get back at me? Porter said something crude, and everyone laughed. But someone dug deeper. What if Robby actually differentiates into an Omega? Then I'll marry him. Porter's eyes curved in a smile, a faint blush lingering from the alcohol. An Omega like him, just mark him and lock him at home. That'd be perfect. Suddenly, someone bumped into my shoulder. Even Porter, who had just joked about locking me up, sat up straight, his gaze instantly clearing. Just passing by, I said, "Robby, you're here." Perfect timing, my brother ran over from nearby, throwing himself into my arms. I ruffled the kid's hair and waved at the stunned people inside. "Let's go." Quinn couldn't sit still. One moment pouring water, the next slicing fruit. "This one's sweet. This one's good, try it, bro." He popped an orange slice into my mouth. I looked at him and refused. He huffed and shoved it into his own mouth. For some reason, I suddenly asked him, "Quinn, if an Omega is marked, do they have to stay with that alpha forever?" Pheromones are really important for AO relationships. Once marked, if there's no alpha pheromone during their heat or pregnancy, the Omega's body can be damaged. Pregnancy could even cause miscarriage, so there's no way around it. Quinn thought for a moment. Marks can be removed, but it hurts and can cause stress disorders. Oh, an Enigma can mark an alpha and make them an Omega. But, Enigmas are rare. Suddenly, he leaned close, mischievously asking, "Bro, why are you asking this now? You got someone you like? Go away." The alpha I like is here too. Can you send me some money later? I want to go to the movies with him." He tugged my sleeve gently. Bro, you're the best." I glanced at the small kids around me, none taller than my shoulders, and asked, "Which one?" "That tall one." I followed Quinn's finger, and nearly blacked out. Why was it a blonde? Later, after college, everyone started working. At 23, I took over the family business. Porter hadn't. His parents thought he lacked experience, so they sent him to my company as an assistant, supposedly, to learn. Really, he was hiding there after causing trouble. People wanted to sue him for harassment, so he came to hide with me. He looked at a poster of a trainee that an assistant brought him and grinned. Suddenly, he flipped back to my computer screen, pointing at the trainee. He said, He's beautiful. Porter glanced at me again, denying it. "Not as beautiful as you." I laughed angrily. "Not as beautiful as me, but good enough. Kind of looks like you." He suddenly pulled out his phone. "Can you give me his contact?" My expression darkened instantly, warning him, "Porter, control yourself. If you mess around in my company, I can make you walk out naked." Porter pouted. "Nothing I can do. If you were an Omega, I'd have married you already." Then he leaned in, brushing my cheek lightly, in a teasing, flattering way. Before I could react, he left. Before walking off, he pointed at the still open screen. "Don't forget the contact." Of course, I didn't give it. That night, I entered Enigma's heat, and that night, when I dreamed of Porter, my body's unusual adrenaline told me I could mark him. Porter, promiscuous, never loyal, was born to be marked. Later, Porter's parents pressed him to marry, mistakenly thinking my brother's report was mine. They hurriedly arranged a wedding. After marriage, Porter restrained himself. No more scandals. I didn't care about top or bottom. After all, my parents' love had nothing to do with gender. I trusted the same. But when Porter dragged me to the hospital and reacted so strongly upon learning the truth, I realized, I still softened toward Porter. 8. I didn't know if it was fear or pheromone overload. Porter trembled uncontrollably in my arms. His gland reddened, a sign that his heat was starting. I still soothed him as before, kissing the gland gently to calm it. "Hold on, this heat is going to be tough." Porter reacted strongly, couldn't push me away, using all his strength in his mouth. "Crazy bastard." He used every word to curse me, but when he heard my voice, he quieted down. The shouting and insults became sobs. I said, "Don't you want a baby?" I slid my hand up his shirt hem. He shook violently, almost losing balance, and I had to hold him tighter. The closeness became nearly a full-body embrace. "When I mark you, we'll have a baby too. Most importantly, your parents will be happy." Porter. 9. This heat lasted a long time. Maybe it was because the marking was unstable. It went on for almost 2 weeks, nearly half a month. The process of an Enigma marking an alpha is truly painful. Sometimes Porter would climb onto me, not even sure if he was an alpha or an Omega, acting almost insane. Only when I pinned him down could he finally fall asleep. That was also the first time I realized that pheromones can change after being marked. The slightly bitter, rude, and unpolished, bitter peach scent he used to have transformed into a sweet, lush peach aroma. It clung again and again, bore fruit again and again. and each time it was crushed, leaving only a continuously oozing, overripe peach. No wonder everyone wants to be an alpha. I looked at Porter, sleeping so soundly, and thought this. 10. The next day, I woke up to Porter's huge commotion. He was yanking at the chain I'd locked on his wrist while he was asleep. What? He asked fiercely. I half sat up, unconcerned, and explained. The chain, it's for locking you in. In an instant, I saw Porter's eyes fill with tears. You can't do this to me. He'd been shedding a lot of tears lately. Should he get some hydration? I thought. You're being disobedient, I said. He argued, dissatisfied. I'm already an Omega. Where else can I go? I got out of bed, put on clothes, buttoned up, and looked at my still crying husband. You've got feet, you can walk, you can go to the hospital, get the mark removed. It's scary, you know. He cried even harder at my words. Having learned from past experience, I wasn't going to be soft this time. Instead, I gave him a sharp, threatening warning. When you give birth, the chain will be gone. 11. Actually, the key to the chain was on the nightstand. I only locked him up because I didn't want him sleeping badly. Anyone paying attention could see it. So when I came home from work, I never expected Porter to still be in the bedroom, lying on the bed. The moment I walked in, I was blindsided by a flying pillow. You bastard, you didn't even feed me. Porter, sitting on the bed, shouted, who imprisons their play like this? His voice was hoarse from shouting. He coughed a couple of times, then complained. No water either. Today, the housekeeper wasn't around. I had to calm Porter down, then went to the kitchen to make him a bowl of noodles. He seemed really hungry. He ate voraciously, still glancing at me. I looked at him, feeling slightly guilty. I'm not stealing your food. Half full. He came over to talk to me. Porter, what did you do today? Me, work. So the housekeeper wasn't here, and neither were you. Suddenly, he put down his bowl and asked, what if I had a fever? But the next second, he seemed to realize something, bumping my shoulder triumphantly. Robby, I take care of myself way better than you do. Moonlight poured softly through the window, falling on both of us. Sorry, I said. I didn't argue. Rubbing his soft hair, I'll learn. After he ate, drank, showered, and changed into clean clothes, Porter lay in bed contentedly. He was afraid of the dark and couldn't sleep with all the lights off, so only a small bedside lamp was left on. He lay there, playing with my fingers like he did as a kid. Robby, how old were we when we first met? I hummed lightly. 5. As a child, I looked a lot like my mother, with long hair. Young Porter mistook me for a girl. You're so pretty, little sister, he said back then. I glanced at his starry-eyed face, snorted, and hid behind the teacher. The teacher, awkwardly standing between us, picked me up and explained to Porter, kiddo, he's not your sister, he's a boy. I don't know how Porter reacted back then. The teacher ran off with me, but later, I heard his grandmother mention it. Little Porter had cried for a long time, complaining that he had fallen for a boy sister in this life. Porter rolled on the bed and naturally landed in my arms. Then he looked up at me. Robby, do you remember me chasing you? This time, I thought for a while. Do you mean like when you were in elementary school, acting like a little thief? Or later, when you stubbornly wouldn't give up? Porter liked everything beautiful, gorgeous jewelry, delicate porcelain, and later, beautiful people. Elementary school Porter was like that. We weren't even in the same class. He would block me after school. You're pretty, be my girlfriend. I instinctively rolled my eyes and punched him. Crazy, his little followers chirped. Hey, boss, he just called you crazy. What the hell? Why's the boss crouching? Hurry, help him up before the teacher comes. Only Porter clutched the swollen side of his face, chuckling. Hee hee. Later, in middle school, Porter became my desk mate. By then, his pursuit wasn't so reckless. He'd give me chocolates like the girls in class, underline points I didn't need, and deliberately asked to stay behind for private lessons. Middle school Porter wasn't as bold confessing as in elementary school. One day, he left me a note. Robby, which high school do you want to go to? Can I go with you? The next day, I caught him and asked if he meant just high school or forever. Porter didn't answer, he was shy. The last question that night came from him. Robby, why do you like me? This time, I stayed silent for a long moment, until I held him, fingers intertwined, and finally answered, because you're you, because I've seen every side of you, that's why I like you. 12. I've always been a slow thinker. The first time I really questioned it was when he mentioned breaking up with me. Most people have never seen Porter completely collapse into tears, but I have. Porter's parents had an arranged marriage. Having Porter was like completing a task. He was raised by his grandparents as a child, and only brought home once he became sensible. By then, Porter's parents were already estranged, bringing different partners home every day. Porter could hear all sorts of sounds each night, sometimes 2 people, sometimes 4, so he became familiar with omegas at an early age. The day he truly broke down was on his 16th birthday. The night before his heat, his parents shoved a completely naked omega into his room. They told him that after today, he would truly be an alpha. He ran out, holding back nausea, and called me. I answered while taking my younger brother out to buy a cake. Porter's voice was nasal on the phone. "Are you home? What's wrong?" I asked. "Can I come see you?" I hesitated, looking at my brother picking out a cake. You might have to wait a bit. You don't get the problem. I can come over now." Beep, beep, beep. The call was cut off. So urgent. I thought. "Brother, I want this one," Quinn said, pointing at a cake at the counter. Smiling, I stared at it, lost in thought. A birthday cake. It really was his birthday today. I didn't know if he had eaten. I nodded to Quinn. "Okay, get this one. I'll buy you another one later." Okay. It wasn't until later, when he came to me, that I learned what had happened. It was the first time I'd seen someone cry like that. I didn't know how to comfort him, and Quinn opened the cake box first. "Brother, this cake is from the little dog. Don't be a crying puppy, okay?" But somehow, that made Porter cry even harder. He even clutched me. In the freezing cold, both of us layered up. From a distance, it looked like we were fighting. Hey, I protested. "Why are you still hitting me?" But the crying gradually softened into small sniffles. I thought it was me, that I could actually calm him. Then Quinn handed Porter a tissue. "Brother, maybe wipe your face. Your saliva's going onto Robby's coat." I said. "Here, wipe it." Porter spent that birthday at our home. When I took him back, my parents were taken aback. Tear tracks were still fresh on his face. His white down coat had turned gray from sitting on the steps. I had ruffled his hair so many times it was completely messy. My parents said, "Oh, did you pick up a kid too?" I muttered, "He's my classmate." Porter stayed overnight, but the next morning, when he woke, he told me, "Robby, let's just be friends." I froze in place. Snow was falling on my shoulders. Did I like Porter that much? We had only been together a few days, but when our relationship reverted to before, my heart inexplicably panicked. Lying in bed that night, I asked myself, do I like Porter? Why do I like Porter? When did I start liking him? I didn't know. It was only when I realized the depth of this feeling that I discovered I had liked him for a long time. Was it because of summer? No. It was because the day I first met Porter was summer. Was it because of school? No. It was because I got to see chaotic, lively Porter every day. So it wasn't me liking summer or school, it was that Porter brought color to my dull life. I got angry when he didn't say goodnight, felt inexplicably tense when he praised someone else's appearance, and panicked helplessly when he came crying to me. I'd seen every side of the one I loved, and without warning, I fell for each of those sides. That's why my pheromones would go haywire when he got close to others. I took control and asked, "Answer me first, why did you break up with me back then?" It was the first time I heard Porter speak seriously. The warm light of the night lamp fell softly on his face, illuminating the fine hairs. Porter's eyes darkened. Youth comes with fears. Youth comes with insecurities. There's always a second time after the first. My parents would definitely push other omegas. If something goes wrong, at least as friends, you'd still be in my life forever. But if you were really an omega, I'd mark you. Porter suddenly turned to me, with a slightly obsessive tone. That way, we'd be tied together for life. You've been by my side so long. How often have I been near other omegas? You should know better than me. Then why were you so angry when you found out I was an Enigma? I asked, stepping back a little. Unexpectedly, Porter sat up furiously. Backlit, he punched my shoulder. I thought you were faking me out. Saying you're an Enigma is like challenging an alpha's strength. It's like my wife sleeping beside my pillow suddenly becoming my husband. How am I supposed to accept that? Then he buried himself in my arms, crying and venting. And Robby, I've been an alpha for 26 years. Yesterday, at 26 and a half, I became an omega. Wah! After all these years with Porter, I'd already learned how to soothe him. I always said Porter was stubborn and quirky. Actually, so was I. I'd liked him all along. Why hadn't I been more proactive? Maybe real love always comes cautiously. So I thought again about Porter's question. Why do I like Porter? Perhaps I loved his lively, noisy personality. Perhaps every memory I had included him. Perhaps we had shared too much to ever separate. Thank you. Sincerely. For existing. Thank you for participating in every stage of my life. So please, stay by my side. I kissed Porter's forehead and said, good night, see you tomorrow. 13. Porter's pheromones hadn't stabilized yet. He couldn't go out. Meanwhile, photos of me going to work alone and of us visiting the hospital together spread online. To outsiders, our first marriage looked a little like an arranged union. Rumors spread that our marriage wouldn't last long. Even inside the company, people whispered, did you see the trending posts? Yeah. I could tell from the start, a guy working under an Omega. Sooner or later he'd be resentful. The alpha offended you? Exactly. It's been years, and still acting naive. If they really divorce, the company's cash flow will shrink. Will I get fired? No. I just finished my probation. Even before I entered the office, I could hear the chatter. I cleared my throat. They stopped talking. I nodded at them, deliberately lowering my collar. Focus on work. I always believed that what they saw mattered more than what they said. Rumors can't prove themselves. But then, just after I closed my office door, sharp bursts of noise came from outside. Did you see the scratches on his neck? Completely unethical. Which alpha does this? No wonder Robby always wears turtlenecks. So tragic. And that blood probably goes down his back. I smirked, flipping through the documents on my desk. Of course, they already knew. Porter and I weren't divorcing. Our relationship was actually very good. Otherwise, why leave behind such ambiguous marks? But I never expected that they concluded, Porter, he's abusive. The chaos only stopped the night I posted on Weibo. The post included Porter's pregnancy report, captioned, relationship stable. Yet within an hour, the whole internet exploded again. 14. Our child was born the following summer. A very beautiful little girl. Porter named her Otis. He hoped she would be happy every day. It was both of our first times raising a child. When she cried, we were always flustered. Many times, I would see Porter sitting quietly by our sleeping daughter, doing nothing, just watching her. At night, he would quietly whisper to me, Robby, she's like me. I never knew if he meant personality or appearance. After having a daughter, Porter started putting those expensive pieces of jewelry he used to buy to a different use. Almost every day, he would dress her in a set of jewels, switching them out one by one. But a 4-year-old already had a temper. She didn't like it. Every time I came home from work, she would run over, pouting, demanding, Daddy, hold me. I set down my briefcase, dusted off my coat, and picked her up. I asked why she was upset and why she wasn't happy. Her face buried in my shoulder. She mumbled, I don't like it when people say I'm pretty. I looked at Porter standing a short distance away, still holding a jewel necklace, frozen in place. I patted our daughter's shoulder and explained to Porter, oh, she doesn't like it. Keep it for yourself. Porter stood there, powerless with anger, just like her dad. He muttered, 15. On our daughter's 10th birthday, it also happened to be our wedding anniversary. Another summer, with frogs croaking outside the window and the moon hidden behind thick leaves, I watched Porter asleep and kissed him over and over in silence. All my wishes were sealed in those kisses. Good night, my love.